What is up, everybody? What is up? Hey, listen, give us 2 minutes. We're gonna kind of get this thing moving. Throw up an intro. I want to do all my ads and tag-ins and all of that stuff, and then we're gonna start in just a few moments. All right, y'all hang tight. We'll be right back with you. What's up again, y'all? Listen, hey, that intro made me feel good, so I had to play it. Y'all, this is our first episode of All Things Substantial for 2022. Wow. Matter of fact, y'all, this is the first time we went live in a while. So I'm Greg Hedgepeth, President and CEO of Substantial Media, for those of you that may not know. Right. But listen, y'all, not that you needed another podcast or piece of digital content, but hey, why not? Right? Everybody doing it. So, y'all, it's been a while since we have gone live, as I mentioned, and not that, you substantial people didn't, necessarily have anything or we didn't have anything to say, that we hadn't made a million connections. Y'all, but we really just been, spending time learning and developing, y'all. We closed out 2021 with some really big wins, and we're excited to continue refining our work, our sales, for what's to come. But look, that is not why we're here or why I went live today. We're here today because my special guest and I have been trying to nail one another down for a one-on-one chat for some time now. And, with all that is going on with COVID, the truths, the myths surrounding vaccines and boosters, I felt I had to have him on as the very first person that I talked to in 2022. So y'all, without further ado, I'd like to introduce you all and reintroduce to others, Dr. DeLon Canterbury of GeriatRx INC. Dr. Canterbury, thank you so much for joining me, man. How are you?
Hey, what's good, Greg? Happy New Year, man. I hope you guys are doing well. Thanks for having me on, man.
Yo, absolutely, man. Ever since we had that very first Black Issues Forum panel together, and you were dropping some knowledge then about just the ongoing pandemic and, Black health, and just the overall concerns that we have around health disparities and misinformation and what have you. I was like, yo, like, I've got to find a way to one, get this brother on All Things Substantial, because what he's talking about is very much of considerable importance, size, and worth. But also just because, not only do you do that work, but you're doing so much in community. And so I could probably go on and on about you, but, why not have you do it? So tell us a little bit about yourself, who Dr. Canterbury is, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, absolutely, Greg. First and foremost, I am a member of Alpha Phi Alpha, which I give Greg a little bit of crap for, but we know it's all love,
Hey, we ain't gonna mess with him about that. Go ahead.
Yeah, man. But no, ultimately, for real. Again, I'm DeLon Canterbury. I was born in New York originally, but really grew up in Atlanta. But I've been in the Triangle for about 11 years after going to pharmacy school at UNC Usherman School of Pharmacy. So I finished up my doctorate there in 2014 and worked as a retail community pharmacist in the Triangle. So I was anywhere from, honestly, Greensboro to Greenville, but ended up finding a home in Henderson. So I was a pharmacy manager there with Walgreens for about 2-3 years before jumping around to specialty pharmacy and then working here in Durham, where I reside. And so I've been here and loving the Triangle ever since. But I definitely was not loving where I was working. So that's another story in itself. So I found myself just stepping down and getting into consulting and getting into geriatric medicine and helping people be the best they can, you know?
No, that's amazing, man. Like, and it's admirable, right? Like, I heard so many times, so often, people go, like, I had to get out of the loop, right? I had to find my purpose, right? I had to, and that's the important thing, that, you know, we start out on one path, and then life provides us with these, like, you know, forks in the road, and we go, all right, like, I might go down that road for a little bit, but I might have to loop back, or, you know what, the hell with the road altogether. I'm gonna do something different. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I promise you, man, like, tell me though, like, what made you want to get into the healthcare and the medication profession in the first place?
You know, a lot of it was my family. My parents are from Guyana. They're from the islands, right? So we grew up with herbal medicines and herbal remedies and teas and tinctures to treat, you know, common colds and illnesses. So I always was interested in the world of what does this do in the body and how does it help people, you know? So that was my nerdy side clicking. And then fast forward to today, it was nice that I was good at math and science, and it helped me get into chemistry and eventually learning how to heal people. So my mom would literally pick all these herbs in her home country and boil something and make, oh, this is going to help you with stools. This is going to help you with constipation or cleaning the blood. And so I was like, yo, how does this work? Like, what's the science behind it, you know? And some of it, you know, wasn't quite science. Some of it was just cultural, but some of it had some evidence of working. And this got me intrigued with, how can I use my knowledge to know what the meds are doing? Because I'm not as focused as like treating and say diagnosing, like more the medical end, which is great. It's just not for me. I just like to know what the drugs do and how it heals people. So I could use that info. That got me into the world of pharmacy.
Wow. Hey, look, first off, you hit me with like the fact that my grandma used to say, oh, put some of this on it, or take a teaspoon of this, right? And so to hear you say that, like, there's some truth to some of that stuff, right? Because you get what my family, y'all like to say. There's like, you know, you get above yourself, or you get a little education on you, and now you don't think them old remedies work no more. And you and I've had a really dope conversation, you know, off camera, offset, about just the pharmaceutical industry and how the misdiagnosis or the over prescribing of, and I know we could probably go down that road, and you could really drop some knowledge on like what is happening. But before we do though, I want you to kind of tell me a little bit about, so you're the CEO of GeriatRx Senior Care Consulting. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are a senior care and medication de-prescribing company. So we focus on getting people off of harmful medications safely, with a focus on seniors, but of course for all adult patients who are struggling with managing their meds, whether it's with cost, whether it's with access, whether it's with understanding why they're even on it. So our entire focus is to train other senior care providers, whether it's nursing homes, adult daycare centers, as well as other independent retirement communities, on how they can use de-prescribing as not only an added value service, but a life-saving, game-changing approach to healthcare while improving their patients' quality of life. So there's a number of things we do, but our focus is looking at the meds and the patient and working as a team with their providers and caregivers, so there are no gaps in our healthcare system that leave people stranded.
Wow. So I gotta pause there, because you say getting people off prescriptions. So that goes into a conversation that, like I said, we had. So just overall opinion about this overprescription, overprescribing, and just like where we are right now as it relates to some of that. I heard stories about, big pharmaceutical companies being sued and what have you, being pretty much the center point, a focal point of some of the opioid crisis. Like what's your professional opinion on where we are right now as it relates to that prescription medication space?
My professional opinion is that we are in a losing battle to a very outdated and fragmented healthcare system. We consistently are aware that overprescribing is an issue, but it's basically how our system's set up. It's how our schools of thought are set up to basically treat, diagnose, treat, where we're not investing resources really into the more preventative health measures, or really investing in those communities who don't have access and giving them other ways of approaching their health holistically. And so a lot of it comes from access, education. But the problem is our healthcare system makes more money if you are sick. There's no denying that. So the sicker you are, the more money that they can make off of you. So it may be a jaded, terrible thing to say, but the providers know this is true. The patients know this is true. We all kind of know it's true, but we don't think to approach the problem and at least start with the medication. So that's where I come into play. And that's where I say, I don't want to be another problem. I don't want to be another person adding to this issue in our health system. Let's speak up against this. And I'm telling you, people want to do it, but they don't know how. So that's where GeriatRx comes in, where we teach people the ways to de-prescribe safely and, of course, save their patients time and money and any added headache that you may lose in the healthcare system.
Wow. Yo, like that is so, first off, like to chart that path, right? Like to say, hey, look, I know big industry, big pharma would say that here's what you need and what you got to have. Like, and we want you to get it for a year at this cost for whatever, like to take on all of those things, man. Like I've got to salute you. And that's something to be talked about and lift up, man, because, I have a mom, and stepfather who's down in, Halifax County. And I just sometimes see the sheer like number of prescriptions, right? Like, or just the, my mom's one of those, like, I ain't gonna take all the medicines, right? And so granted, in some cases it might be harming her, in some cases it might be actually helping her, right? But the sheer fact that doctors prescribe it, right? Like just would go, all right, yeah, this is what it is, go get this, or I've already sent it to your pharmacy, just pick it up over there. And it's and so to hear that you're championing ways to maybe not have to do so much of that, man, that's, like I said, that's something to be talked about and celebrated. So outside of that work, though, you also serve on the African-American COVID Taskforce Plus. You got to tell us a little bit about that and how you came to be a part of that initiative.
Yeah, for sure. So completely love working on the task force. It initially started early in the pandemic. So really early 2020, around March, a couple of providers and community leaders saw that there was no testing for COVID, or we didn't have vaccines yet, but really any access in our communities of color, Black, Latino, and Indigenous populations. So not only did providers start seeing the gaps, but they start asking the higher health systems, hey, we need resources here. Why aren't we getting people here? And then we start seeing testing pop-ups. You're seeing people traveling from 3 counties over who don't look like us, and you're wondering who's getting the best benefit. And so with this need and lack thereof in our Durham counties, a team of 9 of us, mixture of providers and community-based leaders and organizations and interfaith councils, they got together and said, look, we're going to do something about this. And so they did. So they met every week. We talked about making plans. We became a community sharing of resources. We have amazing people we work with, tons. We have people in DPS. We have Dr. Wanda Boone of Durham Tri, and Dr. Birch, who's also one of our founding members, Dr. Angelo Birch. And so with these mixtures of different backgrounds, we saw that we need to work together to streamline communication and put these testing pop-ups in communities that don't have access. So of course, we're testing the people that are most impacted by COVID, dying the most by COVID, not people just running for the next pop-up who knew because they had the internet, or you're hitting refresh on your computer for an appointment all day. So these were the early hiccups of dealing with COVID in our communities. And so our task force partnered and leveraged with Duke, UNC, faith councils. And again, we do this to share resources, but then we put the action into power. So we do community events, we do town halls. And I got eventually invited towards the end of 2020, just based on my community work in general with Community Health Coalition. And I was honored. I was honored to be a part of it. So now we have a colleague, a team of amazing people, and we're expanding even more. So we are literally doing a Black History Health Critical Race Theory event with COVID next month. But we continue to meet every Tuesday. Anyone is allowed, anyone is welcome. We have councilmen, politicians, people from other health systems who share ideas, people from out of state who share ideas, COVID survivors. We tell those stories that people want to know. And as we have this secure network, we keep expanding and we keep providing testing, we keep providing value and community resources. So it's not just COVID, and that's why there's a plus after the act. The plus are the social barriers that we know have been there, and we have to address those as well too, whether it's food, rental assistance, and of course, just living, you know.
Wow. Hey, listen, man, I had put up just a few moments ago that the African-American, the task force, right, the AACT plus, like draws on that collective knowledge, energy, and influence to address the impacts of not only COVID-19 on the African-American community, but exactly what you just said. Some of those already existing disparities, and to hear now that it even goes further than just the health side of things, man, is again, like I said, something to be lifted up, man, and celebrated. And so, when I think about it, and when I first heard about it, I went like, how do we help tell the stories that y'all telling, right? And so I really do hope that, as we begin 2022, we can find unique ways to collaborate and further help lift up the amazing work and people that are a part of that organization. Because again, like, y'all got day jobs, right? Like, y'all got other organizations and lives and things that you're doing, and to then go, okay, pause. Let's take our collective knowledge. Let's take our passion for helping community and find ways to do that together. And then in doing so, build a network of others just like us that want to do the same thing. So, man, like I said, I had to bring you on. You were by far the very first person that I thought about. Like, when I went, all right, man, this like COVID is like still very much here. It's present.
Yeah.
And we just finished up at the end of, 2021, kind of, wrap up of all the big impactful things that had happened in that past year. And then, I look at it now and go, well, man, like, pause, repeat, right? Like, so I have to ask, like, at this point where I thought we were like maybe getting over the hump, right? Like maybe climbing the hill and coming down on the other side of COVID, like there's a surge and spike with Omicron. Like, talk to me about what you're hearing, what you yourself are experiencing, or like just what's happening and why right now.
Yeah. I mean, Omicron's a bad boy. I mean, that's literally it. We heard about first wind of Omicron. I think the day after Thanksgiving, we heard about the variant in South Africa identified, and so in 3 days' time, it was already in Belgium, Hong Kong, Europe, etc. So we knew that it was probably already here, but we didn't have any confirmed cases yet, or we weren't screening yet to say so. But I mean, this is what viruses do, right, Greg? I mean, we had the same amount of alarm and fear when Delta came through, but we could substantially say that Omicron does spread at least about 3 to 4 times more than Delta. So it spreads more. And what that means is there are more cases. Now, that puts more added strain to the healthcare system that's already barely, it's not even really staying afloat. It's just barely there. 80% of ICUs, I believe, are almost at capacity when it comes to COVID cases. And what that means is it's harder to treat other people who are just showing up for other typical issues. It could be a checkup, it could be a heart attack, could be a car accident. So again, it affects everyone's health and wellness. But Omicron is just good at being a virus, and what it does is it has more mutations. It's able to jump from person to person better. It takes less contact time, so to speak. It just takes less for it to jump and spread, regardless of you being vaccinated. Even though we know that if you're vaccinated, the chances are less severe for you to be put on a ventilator and die. We know for a fact that people who don't have a vaccine have a 5 times greater risk of getting Omicron more than those who are vaccinated. So it's significant, but again, this is what the virus is going to keep on doing. And until we vaccinate the entire world, not just the richer countries, we're going to keep having variants come. So there'll be different names, it'll be the same story we'll see again.
Wow, no, you dive right into what I was gonna ask or interrupt you to ask, which is like, man, what can we be doing to protect ourselves? I know, again, there's still this like, I just feel like it has just been so heavily politicized, this whole thing, right? And I don't know if when you think about some of these like past pandemics or epidemics or what, like if it was the same, right? Like when you think about the flu, when you think about like all of these other things that in our history books, we as a civilization have lived through and now having to be vaccinated for, right? That it's, I don't know, like I didn't live back then. So I just really wonder if it was like, man, swine flu, man, no, we don't need that. The government trying to kill us. Like, like if it was the same way then, or were people like, hey, look, whatever they got, I need it because I'm trying to live for a long time. Like I just, at this point in the game, outside of, like vaccination, boosting even, like just what are you telling people that's gonna like get us to that? And I know you just shared a bit of that, but like to my uncle or to my cousin or to my brother, like anybody that I can go, hey, look, this is what you can do. This is what you need to be thinking about. And then here's the information I need you to share when you have moments to share it with others. Like, I really do feel like that is the only way we're going to get certain folks in our communities, and not just our community, right? But other communities to like really begin to go and get not only like, I think they're willing to go get tested at this point, right? Because they don't want to have it. But in some cases, they don't want to go get the vaccine though. And I'm just confused by that. It's like you acknowledge the fact that you could very well get it, but yet still don't want to get the vaccination that could help you or prevent you from getting it. So talk to me a little bit about what we could be doing or what information we could be sharing.
Yeah, for sure. And to that point, everyone has a different point of view or perspective on why they may not want to get it. And you have to, respect where people are coming from at all times. I'm not here to convince really anyone, but I'm here to tell you the objective truth, which is the vaccinations are safe. The vaccinations work. Whatever side effects you may deem to have, and this is for most people, not everyone's gonna not have a side effect, are generally gonna resolve in 2 or 3 days. And when you start looking things and comparing it from, this is a different time from the Tuskegee experiment, okay? This is a different time from the Black Plague or whatever, right? The entire world is dying from COVID. This isn't about race. This isn't about, there are facets of our broken healthcare system where we are skeptical as Black or minority people because of our history. And we're never going to downplay that. I can't downplay that because I experienced it myself. But I'm speaking from the angle of, let's put your fears of why you don't want to get vaccinated and try to compare it to where is that coming from? Is it you don't trust the maker? Is it you don't know what's in the ingredient? Do you think it's a scam from Bill Gates? Do you just personally heard someone had an issue with it? I want to know your truth, right? And then objectively ask those truths and have that opinion discussed with a trusted healthcare provider. And ask more than one. Don't just ask one. Ask people who have different opinions and see if it holds up to why you may think this way. I'm never going to downplay your reason why, but the truth is the vaccines are safe. We've vaccinated tens of millions of people. You're not hearing people widely dying from a shot. You're not hearing kids that are now getting vaccinated widely dying from the shot. Okay. So we've given this to older people. They aren't dying from the shot. So those are objective facts. But we do know that people are dying from what? COVID. We do know that the hospital systems are overrun. We do know that there are less providers who are walking out because they're burned out with how broken our system is. So now you got less doctors, less providers, but you're willing to risk and have a, I don't know, $100,000 bill to get a COVID treatment in case you get COVID, and you're going to trust that over what could have prevented it with a vaccine. So again, I'm only going to put objective facts where the facts are. I'm not here to, again, make you reconsider, but I implore you to reconsider as a healthcare professional and as someone who cares about my fellow man, to just see what your holdup is. And if there is a true holdup that has you concerned, talk to myself or talk to a trusted provider, and just have an open dialogue. There should be no judgment. There should be no, I wonder what they're going to say. But I want you to have that truth-centered conversation about why, and then look at the pros versus the cons of what you can experience with COVID versus not.
Got you. And now here's another one for you, because as you were talking, I was thinking about this, and I know you quick on your feet. And so I've been vaccinated, right? Boosted. But now for those that are like, all right, well, I got the first two, man. Why I need to go get a third? Like what?
Yeah.
Like talk me through why now? Why so quickly? Right? And
Sure.
And so, you know what I mean? And if at all there's any potential side effects from it.
Yeah, sure. So as we are all learning to COVID being COVID, things change, guidelines change, rules change. And it took us about a year after we made the vaccines. But I'll say the easy point to counter that is this: nothing is 100%. Nothing in science is 100% ever. So just like birth control, you hope it works 100%, but people have gotten pregnant on birth control. So again, this is now a metaphor for the vaccines. We know that they're up to 94, 90%, but you still have a chance of getting COVID. So it took us about a year of tracking people who were vaccinated to realize, oh snap, after 6 months, it's not as effective. It's not as 90% anymore. It starts to go down. And this is what we found out last year. Okay. So when we found that out, that was where we started talking, okay, do we need a whole new vaccine, or do we just need to do another dose? That's what's the conversation right now. So it's true. The goalpost for the definition of what it means to be fully vaccinated is actually changing to include having a booster. What we're realizing is that in time, and as we're tracking this disease, the virus is getting better. And with Omicron, that changed the whole trajectory. So now if something's spreading like 3 or 4 times more, it's just giving your body another boost, just like that second shot gave you after your first. And this is, again, we don't know this will be an annual thing, but we do know that the side effects are pretty much the same as your initial doses. And this is going to tremendously improve your likelihood of having higher proteins to fight off the virus. And that's the point of the third shot, is to give you that booster and that added protection, where if you just have 2, you can only mathematically assume your chances after 6 months is going to decrease of being protected from COVID and severe hospitalization.
Wow. And y'all heard it from the doctor. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that ain't me saying it. That ain't. And then I'm pretty sure that others within the AACT Plus are also saying the exact same thing or very similar, right? And so y'all, like, I promise you, the whole reason why Substantial exists is to educate, inform, and empower. And anytime we run into people in our networks or in our circles that have that information, that can share with us like those nuggets, those things, their own lived experiences or things they've been exposed to, right? Their collective knowledge, if you will. like, we got to share that with you, right? That's important. And it's my hope that now you go out and share it with others in an effort to kind of like, like move us along, man, push us forward, man, make,
Yeah.
start thinking differently. And so I'm super blessed, and thank you so much for joining us. I won't belabor the conversation any further, but I do want to make sure that I asked you another question. I know I had heard some ringings about you all having something on MLK Day, right, which is known as, or has become kind of this national day of service. And I think I have it here. I'm gonna pull it up, but can you just kind of talk a little bit about what you all will be doing on Monday?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So African American COVID Taskforce Plus, in partnership with Porch Durham, as well as Fisher Memorial United Holy Church and the Blood Connection, we are all working together to provide this amazing community event from 10 to 2 on Monday, January 17th. We're going to be providing not only free COVID vaccinations for anyone 5 and up, and that includes boosters, but we're also going to be giving away 750 food bags to patients or people in need. So you can come get some free food as well as an opportunity to get COVID tested. And that will take place right next door at Mount Vernon Church. So they are also helping out with COVID testing. So if you want COVID testing, it's all on the same block, 420 East Piedmont Street, Durham, North Carolina, 27707. No registration is required. You can drive on up. But we do have a flyer, so feel free to check us out on ACT Plus, which is on Facebook or Twitter. That's AACT Plus, and get more updates from there.
No, absolutely, man. Again, that is the African American COVID Task Force Plus. And I just want to share that, we are here with Dr. DeLon Canterbury of GeriatRx, man, INC. But again, brother, like, just thank you so much for sharing that knowledge and dropping that info with us. Any parting words, man? Anything you like for folks that are at some point going to see this or share this information with others that look, like, y'all got to make sure this is what we're doing. Like, what are those parting thoughts, additional thoughts?
Oh yeah, sure. I will conclude with that. Let me add one more quick thing.
No, please do.
Mention. We're also having a blood drive there at the same time. So anybody who wants to donate blood, just 1 pint can save 3 lives. We are in a critical blood shortage, and that means people who have COVID in the hospitals and need that fatal transplant, it's having a hard time for them to get it. So if you were interested, every participant will get $20 as a gift card if they start to donate some blood during 10 to 2 again on the same day. Okay. So make sure to do that. But in terms of parting words, man, we're going to get through this pandemic together. And we get to start seeing things as a together issue, as a community issue. The facts still don't lie. Black, Latino, and Indigenous people are the ones who are dying the most from COVID. And that comes from systemic issues we have here, but also there's a number of issues with misinformation, access, as well as us being frontline workers and likely being more exposed. But the truth is, you go on a talk and discuss those fears you may have, whether it be with a trusted healthcare professional. Do not get sucked into all the media, clickbait. Do not assume every WhatsApp or GroupMe is, a credible source. Get your source from people who have a trusted background in understanding science and public health. But I will say that your actions do affect others when it comes to COVID, when it comes to wearing a mask, when it comes to socially distancing, washing your hands, being mindful. That's going to take us through this next wave. And yeah, it looks grim with Omicron, but we are seeing cases. They're peaking now, but in other countries where they first had it, they're starting to decline rapidly. So don't lose faith. Don't lose vigilance. And I look forward to seeing you on Monday at our MLK Day of Service and Community event. It's going to be a blast. It's going to be a great time. And come get some free food if you can, and also some health resources to help you and your family out.
Hey, listen, man. Thank you again, Doc, so much for that. I'll share real quick because you know how we do. You say stuff, and then I'm like, oh man, I got another thing, right? And so just before I let you go, I gotta ask. And this is how I show it. This is how my show is. It's just more of a
Yeah,
like, oh man, it came to my mind. I want to talk to you about it.
ask
All
away,
things
man.
substantial. And you mentioned this notion of like most of folks in the BIPOC community being like frontline workers, or so like servers in restaurants and service industry types of folks and providers. And I read an article, man, that said that like it was like over 3,000 plus children across North Carolina, most of which were students of color, like have lost a caregiver to COVID.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. And I think
Mm-hmm.
I know it was Education NC that had put that
Yeah.
article out there, and I'll make sure that I share it again with those of you that are listening. And it blew my mind, right?
Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
folks had like lost like dads, moms, grandmas, caregivers, right? People that have, I mean, it was just interesting to me. And I gotta ask you, like, what could have, and I want to make sure I phrase this right. What should we be thinking about as we get our, children vaccinated? We were talking earlier about, my daughter, 9-year-old, saying, "Hey, Dad, I
Mm-hmm.
want to go get the shot."
Mm-hmm.
How do we comfort them? Like, how do we? Because my daughter's exposed to a lot of information now, more so
Mm.
than she ever would have been. And I'm just always interested in how I can make sure that, again, very similar to what you already said, to kind of comfort, if you will, or reassure kind of the adult community. Like, what I
Mm.
tell how I had a conversation with my daughter, man, about COVID. Like, and most people have probably already had some form of conversation, but she's got classmates that have,
Mm.
been
Yeah.
exposed, or that come to school and tell her that they mom been exposed, and so I'm
Yeah.
just mindful, man, of the gaps in system and broken systems that we have around this thing. So have you experienced or had to speak to any youth regarding COVID, and what were some of the things that you shared with them? And then again, after that, man, I'll definitely sign off and let you go.
Oh, yeah. No, you're good, man. I can talk all day.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, I had an amazing time speaking at NC State. The Delta Sigma chapter there, Theta chapter there, invited me to guest speak, and we discussed COVID and Omicron and the current trends that we're hearing with this new wave. And they were so sweet. They were just amazing event. Great questions. My goodness. They were so bright. It was just such an amazing time to talk to them and get the college perspective on what they're dealing with and how they're adapting with their class structure. And a lot of the questions are pretty similar to what you hear from most of our adults, and a lot of it is when will we get past this? What's been the most effective? How do you dispel some of the myths and misinformations about the vaccines? What have you seen in clinic? And to comfort them is honestly, it comes down to this. And the truth is, yeah, this is new, but we use about 10 years of science for us to come up with 5 vaccines in this country, right? 3 on the
Mhm.
market right now, 2 in the works. We literally have over 30 vaccines across the entire world. Okay, Russia has their own version, China has their own version, India has their own version. So we got to give credit where it's due, right? It looks bleak when you're talking about social media and the news. Those are negative things, but we literally have 2 pills that we can start taking for by mouth for COVID treatment. We have an intranasal vaccine that's on the works. It hasn't been passed yet, but we have a nose vaccine. We have injections that already work really well, the vaccines we have today. And We have biologic therapies that people can get infusions if they have severe cases to reduce their hospital time and need for ventilators. So all this has been done in literally 2 years of a virus being out. So when you look at where we could have been if this was done 200 years ago versus now, I thank God for the technology and the powers that be for us to have information and share it and then advocate for its safe use. So yeah, it's sucking right now, but we're going to get past this. And I have a lot of hope for the future, for the science community, for the medical community that I trust and I'm a part of, and for hopefully dispelling and breaking down some of those barriers that have been holding us back and really treat medical racism at its core.
Wow. Hey, look, I appreciate you, man. Again, I know I've said it 1,000,001 times, and
Mm-hmm.
I promise you, man, this is the only way. Like we build, right? We
Yeah.
find, unique opportunities to share collective experiences and knowledge and what have you. And so now I'm talking to everybody that's listening now and will listen in the near future. That's what Substantial exists to do, right? Is to connect us, to find unique ways to story tell, to find opportunities to empower, to inspire, to lift up, and celebrate those that are out here making sure that our community is thriving, right? And advocating for our
Yeah.
community. And so, with that said, you all, I'm gonna sign off. I just want to simply say to all you substantial people, thank you for listening to All Things Substantial with our special guest, Dr. DeLon Canterbury, of the CEO of Geriatric INC. I want to again thank you for taking just a few minutes. Please, please, please do us a huge, huge solid, and like, follow, subscribe. WeAreSubstantial.com. Y'all, I promise you, 2022 is we've learned a lot. 2020, 2021, if anything, has taught us that we've got to continuously stay vigilant. We've got to find unique ways to pause and pivot, and continue to do business, right? And so that's exactly what Substantial is looking forward to in 2022. And we truly hope that folks like Dr. Canterbury and others that we have in our lineup to bring to you over the course of this year can help us do that. So that said, thank you again for investing a few minutes with us. Until next time, y'all, stay substantial.